Good morning, I'm Greg Cooley, one of the Sunday school teachers here at First United Methodist Church in Corinth, Mississippi. I hope you're doing well, that you're surviving, and that you're thriving. We've been looking at Jesus and God and their relation to us. How do they relate to us? And in the past, we've talked that they created us and prepared us and died for us. This week, we're going to talk about the fact that they are not silent. God, He is not silent. Sometimes we feel God is silent, right? Obviously, throughout history and throughout the experience we have from reading the Bible and from those characters of the Bible, we see that a number of times the characters of the Bible, those of the Old and New Testament, wanted to know, where is God? I'm reading now from Psalm chapter 15, and it says, where is your God? And then the next verse says, our God is in heaven, and He does what He wants. We're going to come back to those principles in just a second. And then the other character from the Bible that we want to see as an example today, and probably going to use as an example over the next 2-3 weeks, is Job. Remember Job? Yeah, I'm sure you do. If you don't, let me give you just a quick primer on who Job was. First of all, in the first chapter of Job, we see that God is entertaining people. He's having audience. He's allowing people, those who are in the realm of spirituality, angels, including the devil, to have an audience with Him. And the devil comes walking in, and God says, well, what are you finding when you go across the earth and around the universe? And the devil says, oh, man is sinful. And he relishes that. And then he says, but there's this one guy named Job. And God says, what do you find out about Job? He said, well, he's righteous. Even the devil, even the competition, had to acknowledge that Job had it going on. Job did have it going on. Beautiful wife and adult children, is surrounded by thousands of animals and possessions. And Job, he was a successful dude. And the devil says to God, you know, I think he's only as good as he is because you've been so gracious to him. You've blessed him so bountifully. If he didn't have all that, I'm sure he'd be a sinner too, and he'd curse you. And God said, oh, he's a real righteous man. And the devil said, let me try him. And God said, okay. The devil said, can I do about anything I want to him? God said, yeah, except for his life. Spare his life. And the rest is history. We know about how that the first servant came in and told Job about how that a number of oxen had been killed by neighboring and warring factions. And then children start to die, and then his business falls apart, and sheep and camels and others. And then he gets sick, and then he gets these sores, and he's lying there naked, and his friends come to see him. It's not a pretty sight. Job's wife is one of the first one we see to question, where's your God? Job's friends, well, if you were so righteous and God loved you so much, He'd be here for you. What did you do, Job? Come clean, confess. We would love to hear the salacious details. Job says, I won't curse him. Even to the end of my life, I will praise him. He went from being successful to miserable. He went from having a wife that supported him and loved him and seemed to love God to tell him to curse God and die. He went from having friends, acquaintances, that, they love to go to a party at Job's house, and now they're there with blame and accusation and insult. Do you know that it is 38 chapters into the book of Job with all of this going on? This stuff, this hurt, this misery, until God speaks. You ever felt like you've been 38 chapters into misery and you haven't heard from God? Yeah, probably. Many of us feel like our lives it seems to want to mimic Job's, don't we? Our country feels that way from time to time. Our world feels that way. Well, there are a few principles we can learn from the book of Job that I want us to share together. And the first one is related to the fact that God is not silent. He's there. He may be trying to speak to me, but I don't hear Him because I only have it on a certain channel, a certain frequency. God may be trying to speak to me through that wife or husband. He may be trying to speak to me through this circumstance. He may be trying to speak to me through these accusing friends. First principle I want us to learn here is that God does what God pleases when God pleases. God does what God pleases when God pleases. And maybe one of the reasons I don't hear from God, and one of the reasons I think God is silent, is because I've been asking the wrong questions. Maybe I've been asking why, and how, and when. Maybe I don't need to be asking those questions. Maybe He wants to respond to me, but He wants to be non-silent. He wants to be verbal if I were to ask the right questions. And I need to start from a point of view of totally understanding that God does what God does. When God does it, when God pleases. He tells us this here in Psalm 115. Because just as we're asking the question, where is God? The very next verse says He's in heaven and He's around us and He does whatever He wills whenever He wills it. Psalm 115. From this, I learn He is totally, completely, and absolutely in charge. And when I ask Him why, maybe I'm questioning that fact or my commitment and belief in that fact. Do I really believe that He is totally and completely and absolutely in charge? If I did, would I ask those questions? If I really believed that God was totally and completely and absolutely in charge, and not just in charge of nature, but in charge of everything, my health, my country, my world, if I believed that He was totally, completely, and absolutely in charge, then would I doubt? Because many of my questions are related to doubt. And if I didn't have the doubt, I may not have the question. Why do I doubt Him? Maybe because I've never seen Him physically. Really? So, have there been humans in certain situations that you were convinced were in charge and you didn't doubt them? A teacher, a coach, a parent, a spouse. If you didn't doubt them, if you believed totally that they were in charge and they had this under control, then how would you respond to them? You see, as things get difficult and as things roll on, I begin to doubt everything and everyone, don't I? You go into the kitchen of a really good cook. We've all done this. We have to confess it. You go into Grandma's kitchen, and she's making Sunday dinner. And you say, "What are you making today, Grandma?" And she gives you the list, like Grandpa used to on Hee Haw, right? Gives us the list of the things that she's preparing. And let's say one of the things she's doing is potato salad. Now, in Grandma's potato salad, or at least in my grandmother's potato salad, oh, she had those eggs in there, right? She'd boil the eggs and cut them up and put them in the mixture, right? And with the mayonnaise and the mustard and the pickles and all that stuff, right? Okay, so we walk in and it's about 10:30 in the morning. We say, "Grandma, what are you making?" She said, "Well, in addition to the ham and in addition to the salad, in addition to the pumpkin pie, we're going to have potato salad today." When's it going to be ready? About noon. Well, we could tell time. We know what time noon is. But we started getting hungry and started licking our lips about 10:30. First time we went into the kitchen. A few minutes later, probably less than a half hour, we come back in. "Is it ready yet, Grandma?" "No, it's not noon. And oh, by the way, the eggs haven't finished boiling. I just put them on. I had so many other things on the stove. I just put the eggs on." Okay. So we leave. 30 or 40 minutes later, we come back. And this is the way we couch it. "Do you need any help?" Yeah. That's really our code for the second round of, "When's it going to be ready?" We've already asked it openly one time, but the second time we come around, and because of respect for her and because of our experience in the past, we don't ask her again openly, "When's it going to be ready? Is it ready yet, Grandma? When's soup going to be on?" No, we couch it this time, don't we? "You need any help?" "Yeah, you can help me set the table." And we keep coming back, and we keep coming back. We know at noon it's gonna be ready. It's never not been ready. Don't you think this is frustrating, Grandma? Because Greg does this every time. Every year, I do the same thing, same dance, same script. Because I'm impatient and I want it now. And as we farther grow into this, I begin to think, she ain't going to have it ready. Those eggs are not going to boil on time. And we won't be able to take those shells off, and we won't be able to wash everything, and we won't be able to get it in. And oh, by the way, the ham's got to come out at a perfect time. And what about tossing the salad? And did anybody cut the pie yet? What about the rolls? I start questioning the cook. I shouldn't. She's always had it under control, and sure enough, it all comes together. And noon, we're eating. I do this with God. He's always had it under control. He's always dealt with every epidemic, every pandemic. He's always helped me through every questioning. He's always been there through every war and every rumor of war. But we still doubt. And when we doubt, a little shadow of a doubt comes in, then questions start to arise. And I start to ask why, and how, and when. Because I really don't believe as well as I should, do I? The first principle is, Grandma's going to run her kitchen the way she wants to run her kitchen. And you know what? God's going to run this world and this universe the way He does. And I should accept that. And know that He is totally and completely and absolutely in charge. And I should quit questioning. Quite actually, I'm going to be happier, whether at Grandma's house or in my experience with God. I'm going to be happier when I accept this first principle that she's in charge in her kitchen and God is in charge. When I accept that principle, I'm going to be happier. When I realize that God is in charge, He has this under control. He doesn't need me running point for Him. He doesn't need me checking up on Him. He just needs me to believe. That's all He needs out of me. My faith and my trust. He doesn't need me to analyze how He's handling this particular event. Because He's God. Grandma doesn't need me to analyze the timeline of her putting lunch on the table. Because she knows what she's doing. And you would think, almost 60 years into this, I would know that. But my impatience gets the better of me. My selfishness gets the better of me. My pride gets the better of me. I want it now, man. I need it now, man. And I don't want to suffer anymore. I don't want misery. Oh, please don't tell me again, Greg. Please don't tell me again, preacher. Please don't show me again, Bible, about this dude named Job. I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of being asked to be patient. I want it now. But you know, I'm going to be happier at Grandma's house if I realize it's going to be on the table at noon, and I just should stay in the living room and watch the game. Let her do what she does. And I'm going to be happier as an adult, as an American, as a father, as a husband, as a Christian. If I accept this about God, He's in charge, I need to trust Him. Number 2, what does truly accepting this principle look like? Have you ever known anybody who truly accepted this principle, that God's in control and I'm not going to question? Have you really? You know somebody who totally accepts this. Well, what does that look like? What does it look like when we totally, completely have faith and trust? Well, first of all, I don't question Him. Secondly, I'm totally committed to Him. Yeah. I don't waver. No, I don't waver. I give Him my best on every play. If you had a coach who never lost, who knew how to handle the fourth quarter, how would that be? You'd do everything they said on every play, wouldn't you? You would follow through. You wouldn't be taking a play off over here or grumbling in the huddle over there. If you truly knew that this person has it, what would it look like in my life if this principle, that God does what He pleases and He is totally and completely and absolutely in charge? What would living out that principle look like today for Greg? Maybe I need to ask myself that question every day. What does it look like? I wouldn't question Him. I'd be totally committed to Him. And I wouldn't appear to waver to my brothers and sisters. I'd be the rock of Gibraltar. I'd be that lighthouse. I'd be that city set on a hill that could not be hidden. And what does submitting to this principle look like? It's one thing to say I believe in something. But in order for me really to give a principle, my total devotion, I've got to submit. Okay, so I turn my questioner off. Yeah. I turn my believer on. I turn my light on. I follow through. Now, is this easy? Well, of course not. Because first and foremost, as humans, we are about self-preservation, aren't we? And anything that brings me misery indicates to me, it's kind of like one of those warning lights in your car. You know, you get in your car and you turn it on, and then that light comes on, and it shows low fuel. Well, it's a warning light, an indicator that something else is coming, running out of gas, if I don't address it, right? Well, misery and discomfort and pain are warning lights to me that hurt is coming and loss is coming. No, I don't want those things. I don't want hurt and loss. And so when I see these warning lights, I want to address them as quickly as possible, just like you do. When the light comes on and you see that you're low on fuel, pretty quickly we pull over. Or at least my wife thinks that I don't do it fast enough, but we get there. When I see these warning signs, the misery and the pain and the need for patience, do I try to interject and find a solution? Or do I trust that He is the ultimate filling station? That He has the answer? That He knows how far I can go? I don't know how far I can go. And I really don't know how far He needs me to go. Maybe this will be a growing experience for me. Maybe this will be a growing experience for someone who's watching me. Maybe the world needs to see the church right now, you and me, show Rock of Gibraltar faith. Quit wavering. Quit questioning. Show you believe. Show you have faith and trust. Show you know that He's in charge and that He is totally, completely, and absolutely in charge of what's happening now, but in charge of what is going to happen in the future. Know that He does what He pleases when He pleases because He's better at this than I am. And if I do, I will hear Him. We're going to learn over the next 2 or 3 weeks that Job learned these principles, and Job is an example of them to us, and that God was not silent through Job's life. God has not been silent throughout the history of the world and through the experience so far of mankind, and God is not silent now. But am I too frustrated and too afraid and too filled with doubt to hear Him? Hopefully not. So how does God also relate to me? He relates to me because He's not silent. He wants to communicate with me. He wants to teach me. And I need to know that He does whatever He pleases. Principle number 1. God bless you. Have a great week. I hope you enjoy this week, and I hope God expresses Himself through you and you hear Him.